Hello and welcome to the Midwest Motoring Podcast. My name is Mike Andreski, and I'm here with the main host, Matthew Pesaconis. Matthew, how are you today?
That's a little bit weird, man, to have you start it, but you know what? Let's go with it.
It's episode 10, so we can do what we want.
Episode 10. We have made it to episode 10. I mean, yes, you have reached the Midwest Motoring Podcast, sponsored by Hagerty. Mike, thank you so much for that great introduction. A little bit different for everybody, but yes, my name is Matt Pesaconis, Regional Territory Manager with Hagerty. I'm joined by my good friend who did that amazing introduction, Mike Andreski.
I think I said hi to everybody, but we'll say it again. Hello,
Let's do
everyone.
it again. We're doing it again.
Good to hear everybody.
I know we've been away for a while, but we wanted to make sure that we touch base. We really appreciate everybody being patient. Like I said in our kind of short form podcast today, that we wanted to take some time to be with family. It was our Labor Day weekend, so everybody had kind of some things going on, busy travel weeks and things like that. So not traveling due to COVID, but traveling around the state for work and things like that. So we really appreciate you guys being here to listen to us every time we come live to you guys. It's just a thrill and a pleasure. Keep those comments coming. I know a lot of people have been reaching out to us through our Facebook channel, through our Apple Podcast channel. So you can really reach the Midwest Motoring Podcast on any of your podcasting platforms of choice. We're actually now live on iHeartRadio. Well, not live, but we are on iHeartRadio now.
Recorded on iHeartRadio.
Yeah, so you can find us on iHeartRadio now, too. Nice. So that was a big milestone. We had to do a bunch of stuff to get there, but we did. So
hoops to jump through.
Yeah, basically. There were massive hoops. But like always, we have been sponsored by Hagerty, and Hagerty wants everyone to know that they're here during this difficult time to make sure that everything that you have collectible can be properly insured. And you may have questions with how you can properly insure some of your crazy vehicles or outlandish motor vehicles of some sort, whether it be a tractor, whether it be a commercial vehicle, or even a demilitarized military vehicle. But those are definitely things that Hagerty can do, and they're ready and willing to talk with you online or by a phone if you want to call in and get you the insurance that you need for those guaranteed values. So thanks to Hagerty for continuing to sponsor this. We just really enjoy making sure that we can bring this podcast out to you guys, and they're helping us do so. So thanks to them. Today on the podcast, episode 10, like Mike alluded to, is that we're going to actually be talking about a couple different things. First off, we're going to be talking about a new Maserati that was recently teased in the media. We're going to be talking about the Nissan 400Z.
Rumored 400Z.
Rumored 400Z. And finally, we're going to talk about what to watch if you're an automotive fan. So all that and more on this episode of the Midwest Motoring Podcast, sponsored by Hagerty. All right, Mike.
Okay, Matt.
I'm glad you're with me.
I'm glad I'm here.
It's been a while, and I think that we've really we got to dust stuff off the rust a little bit, so to speak.
I miss your voice.
I miss your voice, man.
Thank you.
That sounds really weird.
It doesn't sound as good as yours, but it's a voice.
Well, it's because I've modulated yours to sound weird. That's
Thank you.
On purpose. It's so that mine can sound booming and great, while yours sounds
weak and meager.
I wasn't going to say it, but I was going to say a little sharp.
I see.
I really am glad that we don't talk like really bad caricatures of 1920s bad guys. We're going to talk about the Maserati, see?
Yeah, you see? It's the MC20. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. Crying out loud. All right, so the MC20 by Maserati was recently released to the public. It's still an early, I wouldn't say concept, but it's like early representations of what it will be.
Yeah, so like the body work and everything's done. They got the figures. It's just they haven't had time to map everything out and like actually do like hard runs for 0 to 60 and kind of like braking distances and things, right?
And it seems as though the Maserati MC20 is a production vehicle. However, it's not going to be produced till 2021. And the funny thing is that you can order it now. You can order it.
Yeah.
Maserati's taking pre-orders on these things.
They'll take your money.
Absolutely, they'll take your money.
I'll take your money.
Pre-orders, especially on cars and things like that, it's crazy. Like all the people who are pre-ordering their Corvettes, like I get it. You want to be in, you want to be the first one online to get your Corvette, but like I like to see things proven and see things tested, to a very stringent degree.
You want to know what you're buying before you see the hopes of what you're buying.
And the crazy thing is, the Maserati hasn't even released prices for the MC20.
But you can pre-order it.
Yeah, you can put your money down.
Yeah.
So the MC20 is a spiritual successor to the 2005 MC12. If you guys remember, it was an Enzo-based Maserati that, surprisingly enough, was faster than the Ferrari it was based on. But this car seems that it's going to be have a twin-turbo V6 powered up to 630 horsepower. 630. 600. Respect my authority.
See, gangsters coming back.
It's seriously, I got to work it out. 630 horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Like we were talking about, I feel that any car that doesn't, especially in this market, the exotic kind of mid-engine hypercar market, if you can't do 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, there's not even a point.
I feel like that's the standard for, like what you were saying with supercars. If you have a supercar, or if you're trying to be a supercar, if it's not under 3 seconds, then you're just kind of playing like, hey, this is a sporty car, which is kind of crazy to talk about. 3 seconds is still pretty quick. But, I mean, the Corvette's under 3 seconds. A lot of your Ferraris, your Porsches.
I mean,
anything
the 911 Carrera S, not even the turbo's under 3 seconds.
Yeah, so like anything that's 3 seconds or slower pretty much is kind of like, hey, that's respectable. This is more of like an everyday other day kind of car, not a sports car, supercar territory.
I remember when cars could have 500 horsepower and they weren't doing 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds.
Well, this has 620.
620 horsepower. This Maserati, according to Maserati, is a new direction for the company.
So what exactly is Maserati's brand? Because half the times when I see them, I'm just like, oh, that's a Maserati. I never really turned my head on it. Kind of even when I saw this article the first time today, I was just kind of like, oh, it's Maserati.
It looked like a Maserati.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a Maserati.
But it looked like a Maserati from 30 years ago.
Right. So
and I don't mean that in a bad way.
They're sharp cars. They're exotic cars still. But
every time I see a Maserati, I look at it.
Yeah.
And it at least gets my attention. However, I don't know if it's because Maserati became, and I know that Maserati is not a Ferrari brand. I know that they try to continue to stay separated, even though they share a lineage now anyways, is that I feel like Maserati was, for a long time, the grand touring and sedan version of a lot of Ferraris.
I would agree with that. There are a lot more of like just the luxury cars to have, not necessarily go fast.
Yeah, they did go fast, but it was an Italian luxury car versus a purpose-built hypercar or a purpose-built sports car. And I feel like Maserati's been missing that. But even so, for the last 10 to 15 years, the identity of Maserati since 2005, really, so 15 years, has been Quattroportes, Gran Turismos. What else? Like the Levante, the SUV. So it's been these sedans, coupes, convertibles,
yep,
and SUVs. Like it wasn't ever the mid-engine supercar that Ferrari was making. It wasn't the Porsche brand. So I just don't understand where Maserati was trying to fit all these years. And I'm actually really, really it's a breath of fresh air to see them back at their good old roots, which is to create these mid-engined, exotic Italian beauties. And this car, if you look at it, does definitely pull a lot of the nuances off of the MC12 and Maseratis that came before it. The Trident is very much upfront and personal with a big gaping grille and narrow slit eyes. So it looks like a Maserati, which, to be fair, is perfect. The engine of this thing, I think, really speaks for itself. And just understanding a little bit more about it, I think, will bring people's minds closer to it.
Yeah, I mean...
So Mike, tell me about the motor.
It's a motor.
It is.
So
it's made of metal.
It uses fire to create propulsions. Well, actually, that's another thing we should talk about and hit on. They haven't just given much detail about it yet, but they're going to be two different engine choices. So you're going to have the 630 horsepower engine, but they're also going to create an EV variant with this as well. So that's going to be something that would be interesting to see. It's going to be a full electric version. So there's more.
It's going to be fully electric.
That is what they're saying. So they're promising a full electric version.
Tesla beware.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more electric sports cars coming out, and they're relatively quick as well, and decent range for a sports car. I mean, 200 miles for a sports car is pretty good for all electric. But the gas engine, so 3-liter twin-turbo V6, developed entirely by Maserati, named I'm going to butcher this because I do not speak Italian.
Nettuno.
Also means Neptune.
So, yeah, I mean, the Nettuno, which, as you pointed out, means Neptune,
Yep.
which Trident, Neptune, come on. It's easy to see the correlation.
Very. So the coolest part about this is they have a patented pre-chamber combustion technology, which is similar to what a lot of the F1 cars use, and that's just really like two spark plugs in the chamber. So it's I don't know exactly how much it's going to work because I'm not too technologically advanced with a lot of the engineering that goes along with it. But they have a central spark plug.
What's
and
it called?
It is a pre-chambered combustion technology.
So according to the good old Wikipedia, a pre-combustion chamber is an indirect injected, this is a diesel technology, engine delivers fuel into a chamber off the combustion chamber called a pre-chamber, where the combustion begins and then spreads into the main chamber. The pre-chamber is carefully designed to ensure adequate mixing of the atomized fuel and compressed heated air. So I'm wondering if this pre-ignition or this pre-chamber ignition is going to be coupled with direct injected ignition.
Well, most likely.
Because I know that I've seen a lot of cars, or at least newer hypercars, talk about this technology, which literally, if you guys look at an image of this, just Google it, it looks like a little, pot still or a little, balloon that the injector feeds directly into where the spark plug is. And that allows for the cylinder and the valve head and the valves to become even closer in combustion, allowing for a much, much higher combustion rate. And this is why it's usually used in diesel technology. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of F1 people or a lot of F1 teams are realizing is with the development of this type of technology is it's allowing for these high compression engines and more effective, efficient burn of fuels.
They're increasing their efficiency along with power as well. So it's a win-win for both scenarios. So you get more power with less fuel. It makes you go farther, go faster.
And it's weird that where you went from indirect injection, where fuel and air was fed through the intake manifolds into the compression chamber. Then we were saying, no, you want to direct the fuel directly into the cylinder, which was a new cool technology for a while. Then we found out, well, crap, that actually puts a lot of carbon on the valves. It's really sticky, so that we had to develop better valve technology. And now we're utilizing basically diesel technology, which has been around for a while.
In gas engines.
So
that's what Maserati is going to be putting in this engine. So they're doing one of the more relevant recent technologies that they're installing to it. So it's going to be a pretty high-tech supercar engine.
Well, at least for Maserati.
Yeah. So,
and you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but they're also going to be using a dry sump system. I feel like since the Corvette introduced this, and I know a lot of exotic hypercars and things like this have been using dry sump systems, but I really feel like since the Corvette has utilized it and broadcast that they're utilizing it, many more companies are utilizing that as a selling feature. It's a dry sump oil system, which a dry sump system just helps to alleviate some of the stresses on a motor due to possible oil starvation during high G maneuvers.
Yeah.
So if you're taking it on a racetrack or your favorite driving road and you're being a little bit more vigorous with it, you could theoretically starve an engine of oil, and that could be excessively bad.
So it's a good advertising piece of like, hey, you're going to get this new engine. It's going to be pretty high